Ever get that feeling like, there's this whole playbook for life that everyone else seems to have, and you're just kind of making it up as you go along?
Oh, yeah, totally. Especially when it comes to things like, getting ahead in your career or just understanding people better.
Right. Like there's got to be a more strategic way to approach it all.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today with Robert Greene.
Robert Greene, the guy who literally wrote the book on power.
Literally multiple books, actually. The 48 Laws of Power, Mastery, The Art of Seduction.
I mean, those titles alone just scream like secrets of the universe unlocked.
And what I find fascinating about him is he doesn't just pull from, like ancient philosophers and strategists.
He brings in everything from military history to pop culture, like Jay-Z and Drake.
Which kind of proves his point that these fundamental principles of power and influence, they transcend time and context.
Exactly. And today we're not just rehashing his greatest hits. We're going deep on this incredible conversation he had on the Diary of a CEO podcast.
Where he really breaks down the core concepts of power seduction, human nature, even mastery.
It's like getting the cheat sheet to understanding how the world works and how you can actually make it work for you.
So a great place to start is with his perspective on power itself, because when most people hear that word, they think of like domination or control over others.
Like being the boss, calling all the shots.
But Greene's view is way more nuanced. He sees power as this internal strength first and foremost.
It's about self-mastery.
Yeah, exactly. That feeling of being in control of your own life, your emotions, your reactions.
That reminds me of that Malcolm X quote he brought up. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, but absolute powerlessness corrupts absolutely.
Oh, powerful stuff.
It is, because it gets at the core of how damaging it is to feel like you have zero agency, no say in your own destiny.
And that raises a really interesting question. Is real power about cultivating that internal strength, or is it purely about influence over others?
I mean, Greene clearly emphasizes the internal stuff as a foundation.
He argues that if you can't manage your own impulses and reactions, you're going to have a really tough time navigating the complexities of the world, let alone influencing other people.
Makes sense. If you're a mess internally, how can you possibly be effective externally?
It's like trying to build a house on quicksand. It just won't hold up.
And having that internal locus of control as opposed to relying on external validation or authority makes your power so much more resilient.
Right. You're not constantly at the mercy of circumstances or other people's whims.
That's a huge insight for anyone in a leadership position or even just trying to navigate office politics.
Absolutely. And it's not just about managing our own ego either.
He talks about how important it is to be aware of other people's egos, even those in positions of authority.
You've got to be really careful not to accidentally step on those landmines.
Because even the slightest perceived insult can trigger a huge reaction.
Power dynamics are super delicate. It's like walking a tightrope sometimes.
Okay, so we've established that power isn't just about being the boss. Let's talk about another one of Greene's specialties, seduction.
Yes, the art of getting people to want what you want.
Now, when I hear the word seduction, I tend to think of, the romantic kind.
Right, but Greene takes a much broader view. He sees it as this fundamental force in human interaction.
It's about persuasion charm, making people receptive to your ideas, your requests, even without them realizing they're being influenced.
It's subtle, it's artful, and it's everywhere.
So what are the key qualities that make someone a master of this subtle influence?
Well, Greene talks a lot about being what he calls outer directed.
Meaning,
It means you're not constantly focused on yourself, your own anxieties or insecurities.
you're not trying to prove how smart you are or how much you know.
Exactly. Instead, you're genuinely interested in the other person. You're listening intently. You're picking up on their needs and desires.
And reflecting those back to them almost like a mirror.
So they feel seen, understood, valued.
That's like you're speaking their language before you even open your mouth.
He even makes this distinction between cold seducers and warm seducers.
Which sounds kind of kinky, but I'm guessing it's not about that.
Not at all cold seducers are the classic manipulators. They use tactics that ultimately create distance and resentment.
They might get what they want in the short term, but they burn bridges in the process.
Right, whereas warm seducers, they create this engaging reciprocal dynamic.
It's less about getting one over on someone and more about creating a win-win.
It's like a dance where both partners are in sync, enjoying the flow.
Okay, so that's the positive side. What about the flip side? What are the qualities that make someone completely unseductive?
Well, Greene says preaching and moralizing are huge turnoffs. Nobody likes to feel judged, especially when they're open to influence.
It's like, okay, I get it. You're perfect. Can we move on?
Right. And another big one is a lack of generosity, and I don't just mean with material things.
You mean being generous with your time, your attention, your energy?
Exactly. If you're constantly taking people pick up on that and they're not going to be drawn to you.
It's like that old saying, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
Now, another interesting distinction he makes is between insecurity and vulnerability.
Because we often hear that vulnerability is attractive, but insecurity is not.
And Greene explains why that is vulnerability when it's genuine. It creates this sense of openness and connection.
It shows you're willing to let your guard down a bit to be real.
And that can be incredibly disarming and attractive.
Whereas insecurity is all about self-absorption and anxiety. It pushes people away rather than drawing them in.
One is about shared humanity. The other is about your own internal turmoil.
Now, he even had some surprisingly practical dating advice that ties into this idea of effort.
Oh, yeah. He was saying that even small gestures like dressing well for a date or picking a thoughtful location, they communicate respect and genuine interest.
It shows you're not taking the other person for granted. You're actually putting in some effort.
And he connected this to some of the challenges young men are facing in the dating world today, potentially due to unrealistic expectations set by, certain types of online content.
Interesting. So he's suggesting that the constant exposure to, overly idealized images and scenarios might create this distorted view of what real intimacy and connection look like.
And potentially hinder the development of crucial in-person social skills, like reading body language, understanding nonverbal cues.
Because you can't just swipe right your way to a meaningful relationship.
It takes real-world practice and attunement to those subtle signals.
And speaking of that attractive energy, he brought up Errol Flynn and his relaxed confidence.
Yeah, it wasn't about being cocky or arrogant. It was this deep inner ease that just radiated outward.
Which begs the question, how do you actually cultivate that genuine confidence? Because Greene's pretty clear that you can't just fake it.
Exactly. He says people are surprisingly good at detecting insincerity. Those little micro expressions and body language cues give you away.
It's like trying to wear a mask. Eventually people see through it.
And his argument is that true confidence isn't some magical feeling you can just conjure up out of thin air.
It's built on a foundation of real accomplishments, skills you've developed, goals you've achieved.
When you have that inner knowing that you can handle things, that you're competent, that's where real confidence comes from.
So it's not about affirmations and positive self-talk. It's about actual results.
It's earned, not manufactured.
All right, let's talk more about those subtle cues, body language, because Greene emphasizes that it's absolutely crucial for understanding people, even more so than words.
He says it's this primal form of communication rooted in our evolutionary history, predating language itself.
So on a subconscious level, we're constantly sending and receiving these nonverbal signals.
And what's fascinating is that while we can consciously control our words, our body language often betrays our true feelings and intentions.
It's a more direct window into what's really going on inside.
He gives some great examples, like the difference between a fake smile and a genuine smile.
Like when someone's just being polite versus when they're actually delighted to see you.
Exactly. The fake smile only engages the mouth. The genuine smile lights up the whole face, especially the eyes.
And he points out how the voice can reveal nervousness, even if someone's trying to sound confident.
Those little tremors, those hesitations, they speak volumes.
And in a professional setting, posture is so telling someone who's leaning forward, engaged in the conversation.
Versus someone leaning back, arms crossed, maybe checking their phone, subtly signaling disinterest.
He even talks about how the direction of someone's feet can indicate whether they want to be in the conversation or are subconsciously looking for an exit.
It's like their body's already pointing towards the door.
He tells this amazing story about Milton Erickson, who, after experiencing paralysis, developed this incredible ability to read body language.
It became his primary way of understanding the world because his physical limitations forced him to become hyper-attuned to those nonverbal cues.
But here's the thing. Greene cautions against getting too caught up in trying to consciously manipulate your own body language.
Because it can come across as forced and inauthentic.
It's like overthinking your dance moves. You end up looking stiff and awkward.
Exactly. His advice is to focus on building that genuine inner confidence and security.
When you feel good about yourself, that naturally translates into more positive and authentic body language.
You're not putting on an act, you're just being you.
All right, so we've covered power seduction, the importance of nonverbal communication. Let's dive into something that Greene seems particularly passionate about, mastery.
He even wrote a whole book about it.
What was the driving force behind that book?
Well, after the huge success of the 48 Laws of Power, Greene started to get concerned that people were misinterpreting his message.
Like they were getting too focused on the manipulation and strategy aspect.
Exactly, and not enough on the importance of actually developing real skills and creating something of value.
So mastery was kind of a counterpoint to that.
It was his way of saying, hey, don't just try to game the system, actually build something meaningful.
And this is especially relevant in our current culture of instant gratification where everyone wants results yesterday.
Greene emphasizes that real mastery takes time, dedication, consistent effort.
Our brains literally need that time and repetition to build the neural pathways necessary for true expertise.
He challenges this whole idea that passion alone is enough.
Like if you just love something enough, you'll magically become great at it.
He says while passion is important, it's the sustained effort, the discipline, the willingness to push through boredom and frustration that really separates the masters from the amateurs.
It's the grit, the perseverance that ultimately leads to that deep sense of fulfillment.
Because the real thrill comes from seeing yourself improve, from overcoming obstacles and reaching new levels of competence.
And that journey towards mastery often begins with identifying your inherent inclinations, what Greene calls your life task.
Yeah, and he draws on Howard Gardner's work on multiple intelligences, the idea that we all have these different strengths and natural aptitudes.
And it's about recognizing those early in life and then actively cultivating them.
And it's not just an intellectual exercise, it's more about an intuitive feeling of alignment.
Like, this is what I'm meant to do, this feels right.
And your 20s are crucial for developing those skills aligned with your life tasks.
Because those formative years are when you lay the foundation for your future success.
And your life task provides that deep intrinsic motivation that will sustain you through the inevitable challenges and setbacks that come with mastering anything worthwhile.
It's that connection to something bigger than yourself that keeps you going when things get tough.
Now, he also offers some really practical advice about the apprenticeship phase, which is a key stage in the journey to mastery.
And his advice is kind of counterintuitive, right?
Definitely, he says, don't get too caught up in chasing the highest salary right out of the gate.
Instead, prioritize learning opportunities, even if it means taking a lower-paying position.
Because the long-term benefits of gaining that deep foundational knowledge and experience far outweigh any short-term financial gains.
It's about playing the long game, investing in your future.
And a crucial element of that apprenticeship is the practice of deep observation. It's about being incredibly attuned to your environment, absorbing the unspoken rules, the best practices, the valuable insights within your chosen field.
It's about being a sponge, soaking up everything you can.
And also about identifying role models, those who embody excellence and those whose approaches you should avoid.
Learn from the best and learn from the mistakes of others.
And ultimately, skill acquisition happens through learning by doing.
It's not enough to just read books or watch videos. You have to get your hands dirty.
He emphasizes that the brain learns best through hands-on experience, through actively engaging with the material.
It's like that saying, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn.
Exactly. Now, Robert Greene's understanding of human limitations took on a very personal dimension in 2018 when he had a stroke.
And he's been incredibly open about the impact that experience had on him.
Yeah, it was really profound. He talked about the initial denial, the struggle to come to terms with the physical limitations he was suddenly facing.
And this was someone who'd been so active, so physically capable.
To suddenly have to confront those challenges, it was a huge shift in perspective.
He said it gave him this newfound empathy for people living with disabilities and anyone experiencing feelings of helplessness.
And he shared some of the coping mechanisms that helped him navigate that difficult time, finding renewed purpose in his writing, practicing meditation to cultivate inner resilience.
And consciously reframing his situation, recognizing that others were facing even greater hardships.
He also talked about how the experience gave him these profound insights into happiness, a deep appreciation for the simple things in life that we often take for granted.
Like the ability to walk or to read a book in the park.
And the importance of human connection, the unwavering support of loved ones.
It's a reminder to really value those everyday moments and
Yeah.
the people who are there for us.
Now, shifting gears a bit to his broader reflections on human nature, Greene's work often explores those darker, more complex aspects of our psychology.
The capacity for manipulation, self-interest, all that stuff.
So has all that exploration made him more or less optimistic about humanity?
He said it's made him more understanding and even loving towards individual human beings.
Recognizing our shared struggles and complexities.
But he expresses less optimism about the human race as a whole, particularly given the potential for technology to amplify those negative tendencies.
Yeah, he's concerned that while technology offers amazing possibilities, it can also exacerbate our worst impulses on a massive scale.
It's like giving a toddler a loaded gun.
But here's the interesting thing. He sees a glimmer of hope in the younger generations.
He senses this potential rebellion against the increasingly virtual world, a yearning for something more authentic, more real.
And he even shared a personal aspiration for a more positive future for humanity in the year 2072.
So it's a nuanced perspective, acknowledging the challenges, but also holding on to that possibility for positive change.
Now, on a more personal note, he was asked about a defining moment of happiness in his life.
And he pointed to that time in his late 30s when 48 Laws of Power was published, and his whole life changed.
He went from struggling to make ends meet to suddenly having success recognition opportunity.
And what's really cool is that he still carries that gratitude for that transformation all these years later.
The initial euphoria might have faded, but he still deeply appreciates the life he's created.
So, from understanding the dynamics of power and influence to navigating the subtle art of seduction, dedicating yourself to mastery, confronting adversity, and grappling with the complexities of human nature, Robert Greene has given us so much to think about.
His work encourages us to really examine ourselves and the world around us with this depth and nuance.
And to use that understanding to live more intentionally, to achieve our goals, and to create something truly meaningful.
It all comes down to this question: how do you cultivate that inner power while also effectively navigating the external forces that shape our lives?
It's a constant dance, a balancing act.
And one that's worth exploring.
Thank you for listening, and see you soon with another one.